So welcome everybody to Youth Power 2 Learning and Evaluation for the Gender Community of Practice. I'll be with you today. My name is Sheila Salim. I'm the COP Youth Advisor for the Gender COP. And with me is Heather. So I'll let Heather introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Heather Marlowe. I'm a Senior Technical Advisor for Y2PLE based out of International Center for Research on Women. Welcome to the Gender Community of Practice.
Yes, thank you, Heather. As people are joining in, I'll basically just introduce a few norms. So we have a few norms for those coming in. We've said you can introduce yourself in the chat box. Just put your name. You could put the organization that you're representing and the country you're from in the chat box, and I'll be able to see through as we go on with the session. So as we start, I'd like to put out a few norms that will be our guiding, will serve as a guiding path for this session. So we have a few. I don't know if you can be able to see our screens. So if you would also kindly just go to your name and also add in your pronoun. So you could go for your name, just click on your name in the participant list, and then you're able to edit out. And also we are going to listen with an intention. So we are going to be intentional. We are going to give everyone an equal chance to participate in the discussion. And also while another person is speaking, we kindly ask that you don't interrupt them. We give them time to speak up their point. We are also asking that if you're not speaking, kindly mute your mics. And most above all, it's mutual respect for the discussions that we'll have and also the key pointers that people will be giving. And just in case pointer, if at some point I go off, just know it's because of the internet connectivity, but I'll have my camera on. So is Heather going to have a camera on? And if you have your camera on and just in case you have internet connectivity, I think it's best that you just turn it down. I think it usually helps with keeping you connected without any interruptions. So welcome everybody once again. So I think we could take a minute or two for people to wrap up on the introduction in the chat box, and then we can kick off. As we kick off, call the next slide. So just to note, we will be joined by a few people in this call. So we have the YP2LE community managers. We have Jessie. I don't know if Jessie could put on your camera and just wave to the people. We also have Hina, so they'll be in the background. They're here just to support us, so feel free just to engage. And in case of any question during the discussion, or if you have any unclear thing that you want us to clear out, feel free to put it in the chat box. Thank you very much. Again, on your screen, we briefly just have our pictures on so that you see, I'll say you see our faces. So there you go, you have Sheila Salim, that is me as your community practice youth advisor. We have Heather Marlowe as the community practice champion. We have Jessie Bellama as the community manager, and we have Hina Acharya as also the community manager. So welcome once again, everybody. So if we could move to the next slide. So just to start off, I think we could, I know during this COVID-19 times, we don't have a chance for ourselves to have fun. So we thought it will be good if we start off with an icebreaker. So for this icebreaker, we are going to go into breakout rooms. The group will be of about 4 to 5 people. And in the breakout room, I want you to also get a chance to know each other, introduce yourself to the other members, because this is just a kickoff to a long-term relationship that you're looking to have for the next couple of months. So basically just know each other. And so for the breakout room question, our question we are asking, could you describe a moment in your life when gender was important or notable? So we are saying, could you please pick something that you're willing to share with the group? So you can trust us, we are free. One of the things that we really advocate for is an open space forum, because matters of genders are sensitive issues, but would like to assure you that this is a safe space and whatever we discuss here just remains here between us. So thank you, everybody. So Cole, if you could just let us off into the breakout room. So welcome everybody back from the discussions. I hope you had enough time. I know the time was quite little, but I'm sure you got to know each other and you're able to share your experiences. And you've learned a thing or two as we keep going with this discussion. So I would like to pass it over to Heather to continue from this point.
Great, thank you so much, Sheila. Can everyone see the slides? Are we waiting for the, oh, here, they're coming up. Thanks a lot. Okay, so we just went through our icebreaker, and now I'm going to do a little bit of an overview of our goals, the agenda for the rest of our meeting today, and look at a calendar for our sort of future events. So really the kickoff goals for this meeting in particular is to get to know one another, as we've just spent the first part of the meeting doing, to provide a little bit of an overview of the features of the network, and to share the goals and expectations of the overall network as well. And then there are 3 different communities of practice currently, which we'll talk about. So then we'll also talk specifically about this gender community of practice and generate some ideas for the first 6 months for our gender community of practice and setting the learning agenda. To the next slide. So here again is the agenda, just very quickly. So we're here in the goals, agenda, and calendar piece. And then we'll talk about the network overview, the different communities of practice, as I mentioned. We'll end with brainstorming from you about what you would like to see as part of this community of practice and learn and be involved in and even lead. And then we will talk about wrapping up and next steps, including our next meeting. So as I mentioned, this is the 3rd kickoff meeting for the communities of practice. The first community of practice is business entrepreneurship and private sector engagement. They already had their kickoff December 3rd, and there is a recording that you can listen to if you're interested in that community of practice, as well as you can sign up to join that community of practice on youthpower.org if you're registered there. We'll go over that a little bit more later in the meeting if you need a little more detail around that. And likewise, the youth engagement community of practice kickoff also was on December 10th. And they too have a recording. And again, you can sign up on youthpower.org and also join the youth engagement community of practice. And today we're in the gender community of practice kickoff, and there will be some members that cut across the different community of practice, which is exciting. And we are hoping to also do some joint events where it makes sense in the future. Great, someone saying the youth engagement kickoff was great. So thanks so much. And I'm gonna hand it back over to Sheila to talk you through the network.
Thank you, Heather. So for the community of practice that we are launching today, which is one of the components under the YouthPower learning and evaluation, which is this kickoff, we have a few principles that it is guided by. So the YP2LE, as we call it in form, is guided by the principle of positive youth development approach. And if you can see on your screen, so don't worry about the circular, so I'll try and explain what those circles mean. So positive youth development is defined as we define it as that youth should have asset. We have, I'll say, 4 principles that guide the positive youth development, or what we'd like to call it PYD. We have the asset, which is the ability to, these are the skills, I'll say, that you have as a person or as one of the members of the COP group that you'll be joining, which is the gender COP. We also have the agency, which is basically your ability to be able to contribute to positive change. We also have the aspect of having an enabling environment, which is one of the biggest things that we will be able to look out for in this gender community of practice, is creating an enabling environment where we are able to have these discussions, we are able to even forge networks, we're even able to bring out issues of gender that we would like to talk about and also tackle throughout the months that we'll have our engagement. And last And last but not least is we are saying that the youth should, one of the things that we're very keen also on is the aspect of inclusion. We want this community of practice to be inclusive so that we have everyone on board, we're able to contribute to the development of it. As you all know that yes, me and Heather are here to guide you, but we'll also be just, you will be our, I would say, we're looking for directions on your side as the members of the COP group, that we are here to listen to your ideas. And I know we'll get to that where we're going to be able to sit down and see what ideas do we have, how do we bring them on board, how do we merge our efforts so that we achieve our goals, as Heather had said them, had pointed out that the three goals that she had gone through on. So thank you. Yes, if we go to the next slide. So if you can see on your screen, sorry, excuse me. So as we are saying, the guiding principles are we have fostering meaningful connection by paying attention to the group and the dynamics and shapes of the engagement. So that is particularly for the members of this gender COP, community of practice. We also have map or networks, engagement routes. Members want to know how and where they'll participate. So through that, we'll also be able to get to know how do we want to have this our engagements, when do we want to have them, and then know Heather will take us through at some point. How are we going to plan for our next engagements? How do we want those engagements to be? We also have the principles of creating and curating practical resources where we're also going to be able to share knowledge. We're also going to be able to share resources that will be also be guiding us through our engagements. And as I said before earlier, we have the aspect of inclusion and also ensuring that members are an agency and agility by recognizing that community structures influence our engagement. And our engagements are going to be influenced through our different experiences from the different organizations that we are coming from, the different countries, and also the different resources that we have. And then key and above all, I think, is empowering our champions to facilitate our role. So me and Heather will be here as your guide, as I said before. We are just here to guide you, but we'll also be here to be able to offer support. And like I mentioned earlier, we have also a whole team behind us, even during this call, that will be able to work through this community of practice as well. Thank you. Next slide. So our network goals and channel, we are saying what are our goals? We have one, collect and disseminate the positive youth development resources. And how are we, where are you going to find these resources? We have the YouthPower organization network, which I'll get on later on during at some point. I'll be able to share how you can be able to join in. And I can see also if you check on your chat box, there are some links that have been posted that you could just click on and find out what they're all about. Then we'll also be able to customize and develop new positive youth development resources. So we'll be able to have different group discussion as we go on through the community of practice, engagements throughout our engagements. We'll also be able to engage with others in applied learning. As I said before, the gender community of practice is going to be made up of sharing learning experiences and also learning new ideas and also learning new, just basically sharing new experiences in our work in matters of gender. We'll also be looking out for building connections and relationships through the applied learning aspect of it. And I know one of the groups that Heather had pointed out was the affinity groups, which cut across the community of practice to informally connect members in the same region or the same countries. I know at some point that we will be able to connect with each other based on the countries that you are in, so that it's also easier to connect and it's also easier to provide an opportunity to network. Next slide. So what are the benefits? We are saying the benefits of the refreshed design, because this is a new approach that we've come up with, is one, members can opt into the platforms and groups that are best aligned with their interested. And I see at some point someone mentioned that the youth community of practice kickoff was great. So we have a number of the community of practice which members will be able to join in. We also have an increased opportunity for members driven and self-directed work. As I had said earlier, that me and Heather are just here to offer support, but most of the activities that you're going to come up with, it will be in consultation with all members of the community practice. We're also looking out for increasing opportunities for cross-pollination and learning. We also are looking for enabling members to get to know other members. And this is where I'd like to point out this community of practice will also be keen in fostering partnerships through knowing each other. So feel free to, I know we'll be having more engagements. Feel free to reach out to someone that you've seen or you like the idea and ask them how you can go about ideas. And who knows, you may be able to implement some of the project ideas that you have in the near future. And then also another benefit you're looking at is creating a smaller formal and informal spaces for relationship building, meaningful interactions and collaborations. As I had said earlier, we know gender is a sensitive issue, but we're looking at creating a safe space for us to discuss these issues clearly and constructively. And then another benefit is also diversity. We are looking for diversity in the community practice of gender, where we're able to have different and bold ideas, I would like to say. And also, the another aspect is the inclusivity of the roles for the youth in the network. And if you're a youth and you're on this call, I will basically just say, this is the time for us also. You are feel free to bring out your ideas. You know that the youth are now, I would say we are the future. So feel free to bring out ideas. There's no idea that is small. There's no big ideas. We are here to share those ideas. We are here to get them through. We're also here to just hold your hand through as we engage in this community of practice. Next slide. So as I had pointed out earlier, we have three main community of practices, and we have gender, this being one of them, that now we're having the kickoff, and we have the youth engagement community of practice, which I believe had their kickoff sometime last week. And we also have the business, entrepreneurship, and private sector engagement. So don't worry if you missed out on the kickoffs, we'll be able to share a link to the recording and you'll be able to hear what people are discussing so that you also on board. And as you know that gender cuts across all, and I can see here also genders will cut across youth engagement, it will also cut across business and entrepreneurship, private sector engagement, community of practice, because gender is all about inclusivity. Next slide. For other network features, we have the affinity groups, which Heather had talked about earlier. They cut across the community of practice to connect members, as I said before. For example, members from, let's say, Asia, you'll be able to have a smaller group where you're able to network further and engage. And it will also be members driven. So it will be on membership basis when we call, for example, if you have people from Asia and they want to have their small affinity group, we also are going to have that opportunity to have that affinity group. And then we also have the aspect of small groups where the small groups will be able to provide an avenue where they empower members on their own learning. And then also members will be able to decide based on their interests what they want to discuss in those small groups. So I'll go over the roles. So I'll go over the roles of the gender core facilitators, the community of practice facilitators. One is to foster a common sense of purpose. So we are here to direct, as I said before, is listen to members' need. As I had mentioned earlier, that we are going to be member idea driven, that will be listening to your ideas so that you're able to know how to make this community of practice more engageful and almost of all have an impact. We want to see impact, we want to see results. Then we'll also be able to promote passion for learning and exchange in matters of gender. We'll also be able to model principles for community behavior and participation. And this is where we're also going to call upon active participation in the community of practice so that we learn from each other. Another role that we'll be playing is, as I had said earlier, this is not the first engagement. We're going to host a number of engagements and they'll be hosted quarterly. And as you know, our engagements are going to be virtually. So you'll be looking out for those links, for those posters posting about our engagement so that you're able to join in. And then we are also going to encourage the uptake of opportunities in the network. As I said earlier, we are here to share experience. We are here to to I'll say we are here also to map out partnership opportunities that you can be able to work in, and who knows, those partnerships may be your doors to greater opportunities in this community of practice. And then also another role that you're going to play is planning and executing communication and outreaches. So I'll just sending out a note that you'll be seeing a lot of our communications, a lot of our emails. So please, when you see our emails, make sure that you'll be reading them. And also just basically our role is going to be able to support you guys and also support our work in terms of community practice of gender. So as you know, as much as we have responsibilities, you as members also have your responsibilities. So I'm going to read out a few. So one of the responsibility is contributing to building a common sense of purpose. So we have to know why we are here and and what we are looking for in this community of practice. Another role that you're going to play is also share interest, ideas, needs, resources, and expertise in the community of practice. So you'll be able to share this with other members on this call. As I can see on this call, we have 34 participants. And then you can also be able to, another role that you have as members of the community practice is to engage respectfully on the Youth Power platforms with other COP and network members. So as I said before, we are going to engage, but what we are calling for is utmost respect in terms of sharing ideas, in terms of respecting each other's opinion, and also respecting each other's I would say, and also being gender sensitive in short. So another role that you're going to have is attending the quarterly virtual meetings. Another role is also participate. That is why I said active participation in the discussions in the groups. And our website is going to be Youth Power, as I said before, that at some point I'll be taking you through on how you could register on the website, on the network, so that you're able to keep up tabs with what's going on right now. And then also another role that you're going to have as members of this community of practice is also to identify and engage in relevant opportunities in this network. So this by the networks, if you remember, we say the makeup of the networks are the affinity groups, we have the small groups, we have the activities, and also have the informal networks, as we'll be able to see during the discussion forums. So those are the roles that you're going to have as your members. And we, as I said before, and I'll still emphasize that Heather and me, we are here to support you. We are here to listen to your ideas. We are here basically just to hold your hand through this discussion as we speak and advocate for a gender sensitive and gender equality space in this time.
Great. Now we have an exercise where we have a chance. We have 4 questions for you to answer to help us think about, what do you want from the network? What are some of the ideas that you have for the network? What can you contribute to the network? What do you want the gender community of practice to be? So if you click on this link here on the slide, and also I think we can put it into the chat, we'll see these 4 questions here, and you should be able to add to this, it's called a Padlet. Under each question, you just can click on the plus and add your thoughts. So our 4 questions are, what are the types of activities you would like the gender community of practice to engage in? The second question is, what skills do you bring to the gender community of practice? The third is, how would you like to contribute as a member to the community of practice? And then how can we best stay connected with one another? So we'll just take the next 5 to 10 minutes. People can start typing in their ideas, and let us know if you're able to get into Padlet and type, or if you need any technical support, just put it in the chat. So we can see people are working on, looks like, for the types of activities, people are interested in training and information sessions, emerging research findings, discussing promising practices, workshops, presentations from other members on what's been successful, problem solving, sharing. You know, this is opportunity if you want to bring in outside speakers that we can help facilitate that, or if you have suggestions of speakers, or if you want to speak yourself, or if there are specific topics around gender that this group can help shape, you know, what we focus on. And then also in the skills that people are bringing, we can see starting to populate writing stories, narratives, monitoring, evaluation, community building. So we look inclusive, gender sensitive training. So we have a lot of rich experience, it looks like, in this group already. So it'd be great to capitalize on that, and also to learn from one another, which is really the point of the gender community of practice, and then to facilitate those connections and learning as part of the group. Under contributing as a COP member, so a number of people who can share resources, best practices, blogging. So we have a lot of really rich experience in our group, and we can start to capture that through this Padlet, and then we will certainly follow up with you about these ideas. So finally, how's the best way we can stay connected with one another? Keeping track of current open support. The breakout rooms were good for meetings, for personal relationships. So, it seems like a desire for personal relationship building, thinking of ways we can do that. Formal and informal meetings. So maybe we have gender community practice formal meetings quarterly, which is what is planned, but then we could have smaller groups. As Sheila mentioned, there are these ideas of affinity groups and small groups. So again, the affinity groups are meant to be like a regional group or a language group. We could even have an affinity group, related to gender in Latin America, for example, or a small group related to measurement of gender. So it's really up to you how you want to drive this gender community of practice. And as Sheila and I have said, we're the facilitators and connectors to help you make this what is exciting for you, and making sure that you're engaged in this community and excited about it and contributing regularly. So that's our goal. So the great news is we will capture all of these ideas in Padlet. We will then share them back with you, and also start to develop our learning agenda for the next 6 months. And we'll engage you again in that process so that we make sure that we are meeting your interests and needs as the co-facilitators of this gender community of practice. Yeah, and so as Hina just posted in the chat, that if you have other ideas beyond this session, which we're sort of starting to wrap up at this point, you can still add to the Padlet, say this afternoon, if you have another idea that suddenly strikes you that's exciting, and even for, I would say for the next few days, you can still add to it. So please feel free to continue to do that. So. And also, I think what we'll do is maybe just take a few more minutes right now to give people time to write. So I will be quiet, and let's just pause for maybe a minute or two, and then I'll hand it back to Sheila to wrap things up for us. Great. So everyone, take a look at what's on the Padlet and what others have written. And if you have any specific comments or about what's coming out, or anything else you want to bring attention to the group in particular that you also support, feel free to write that in the chat as well. And so as we move forward and we're thinking about our learning agenda, you can also type in the chat one thing you would like to see or do in the next 6 months in particular. And so one other way we can stay connected to one another, that once you register at youthpower.org, if you haven't done so already, you can create a profile and add information in about yourself. And then you will have access, once your registration has been approved, to see other members' profiles and to connect that way. You can also post in a thread there to share with the community of practice. So you have an opportunity there to also sort of get to know other people and let other people get to know you, and make some connections on the youthpower.org website itself. And looks like we have a question about whether you can post job opportunities. I'm going to kick that to our network administrators to see if they have a comment.
So the answer to that, I think, is no, but I'm going to look at Maria Brindlemeyer. She's the one who is our network administrator and manager. So she'll have the final answer on that.
Yes, so I think, you know, we wouldn't want this to become kind of a job search thing, but it's absolutely fine to occasionally post something and look for expertise. I mean, the priority should be knowledge sharing and expertise sharing, but you know, we wouldn't want that to be, you know, recruiting people away from each other. So I think that's, but yes.
Great, thank you. And we still have a few more minutes, so I was wondering if you have other questions that I know we've been talking, you can put them in the chat and we can perhaps address them.
Heather, I can see another question that has been put out in the chat box, and the question is by Anna. She's saying, is there a limit on the number of colleagues from a particular organization that can join a community of practice?
No, as far as I know, there's not a limit. This is a member-driven community, so would encourage you to encourage your colleagues to get involved and participate. And thank you so much, Anna, for your question. Nice to see you. We a question. Let's see. And so in the chat, we've recorded whether some of the things that folks would like to see in the next 6 months. So a lot of cross-regional sharing people are interested in as well, and training mentors in schools and hard to reach areas were some of the ideas. And how do we institutionalize the program? I'm thinking, meaning gender from that question. So those are all great accomplishments for the next couple of months for the gender COP. And Sheila and my job and the community manager's job in the next couple of weeks is to synthesize all of your ideas and then come back to you with how we're going to proceed forward for our next meeting and what the topic would be, and incorporating all of your ideas to continue to shape the next 6 months of the COP and the learning agenda based on your interests. So looks like we have another question. Can I follow up with my registration? I've registered a few times and haven't gotten a response. Yes, so please feel free to email us or the Making Sense international staff. We can pop that into the chat as well, who to email to make sure that you get approved if you're having some technical difficulties. Thank you. What efforts will be there to develop cross-population with other communities that practice relative to gender? Yes, so we definitely have already started talking about that, particularly with the youth engagement one, youth engagement community of practice. So we meet regularly too across the communities of practice, so that we can bring ideas from our members about how we might want to collaborate across the communities of practice and even host joint events where, you know, there's intersectionality, for example, between youth engagement and gender, or business and gender. And there are plans to also add more communities of practice in the near future from different sectors as well. So stay tuned for that. And also if you have specific interests in a sector like health, for example. So I'm going to hand it back over to Sheila at this point to help us wrap up and answer any remaining questions that are in the chat. And also feel free to email us as well. So I'm going to put my email in the chat because I'm not sure if we put it on the slide.
So as I wrap up, I would also like to point out that whenever you register on the YouthPower site, you'll also be able to see the different profiles from the different people. So also, again, that is also an opportunity for you to mark up for partnerships opportunities, and also to look for like-minded people who may you have the similar interest in there. So thank you. I would just like to say thank you everyone for all of you who joined us on this call. We are quite excited with Heather and the rest of the team to see how we can bring on board all these great ideas. I've seen quite a number of great ideas, and I can also see on the chat box. So let me just acknowledge that I've seen all ideas by Sam. So Sam, I've seen your ideas and we'll be able to pick up on them also and add them in the Padlet. So thank you everyone once again from where you are joining for joining us on this call. We are looking forward to an amazing community of practice engagement in the coming months. So we'll be able to also look out for our email. We'll be able to communicate to you on the next steps forward. So, and also if we could just quickly, if we could just come up with a date, we would like to set our next meeting for the community, the gender community practice. So when do we meet? So at this point, I'll probably just ask you could raise your hand, then you could raise your hand and unmute and give us just a date. When do we feel we can meet for our next engagement? I can see January sounds okay.
Yeah, and I think between now and then, I mean, many people will be on holiday, but in the beginning of January, we will communicate back with all of you about the ideas and re-engage you, and then the next meeting. And so stay tuned for that in early January, and setting the second or third week of January for our next meeting. But we can follow up with more information based on the brainstorming today, and then the next meeting and the topic and the agenda for that.
Thank you, Heather. Yes, and definitely I can see Lisa's concern. We'll definitely also take a note of the other dates that have been set for the other community of practice, so that we'll be able to liaise so that we don't have overlapping engagements, because I know some of you will want to join one or two more of the community of practice. So we'll definitely take that into note. And if you could also check on the chat box, I know Maria has provided an email where you could share your concerns on the registration on the site. So if you have any issues, kindly just send Maria. The email is maria@youthpower.org. You could send her just a note to let her know what trouble you're having, and she will be able to assist you. So I don't know, as we wind up, I could probably give a minute or two to anyone in the room, to just participants. If you could just raise up your hand, we could just unmute you so that you just give us a word or two as we wind up in the next 2 to 3 minutes.
And just to encourage everyone again, on youthpower.org, join the gender community of practice, and there's also a discussion thread there where you can pose questions to us as well, as another way to communicate with us.
Anyone who would like to say something? So I believe at this point.
Yeah, can I just highlight something, Usha? I know that has been brought up in other meetings, and I can't remember if we did in our this particular group, but I feel it's really important right now, given the environment that we are all, dealing with. And in the last year, before even with the Me Too movement, I think the question remains in my mind anyway. I don't think we've actually started even addressing it very much, is how does this affect the work we do as individuals, as professionals? And then, I mean, here in the US, we have our issues clearly, and the Western world. We're not, kind of sharing. In a way, we have to acknowledge we have something to learn as well, as, while we do our work overseas. And how do we build in more humility and kind of a learning agenda for ourselves around this? Because I feel, given the stage I am in life, I thought we had made progress, and now I feel we're still way back in our learning and ability to deal with this issue constructively and practically. So let's be cognizant of that. I feel there's something new that we need to deal with in addition to COVID and everything else that we're dealing with. So I just wanted to highlight it. I did add it as a comment, but in the list of the Padlet, but just wanted to add that voice at this point.
Great, thank you so much. And certainly this is a great space to discuss it, broach it, and brainstorm together of ways to address it. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would love to have a go? For the next couple of minutes, we can be able to just raise up your hand, or you could just unmute and just have a go and give us your, I'll say, your input.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead, Yvonne. And then I see Sam has his hand raised. So Yvonne, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is Zaira Lainez. I can't change my name. This is Zaira from IREX, based in Guatemala. And I sorry that I wasn't able to join the whole meeting because I had another meeting, but I really wanted to be here and get in touch with you. And so happy to hear that we're going to have some other meetings, and really looking forward to working with you all and sharing knowledge, tools, etc. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining. And you can listen to the recording of the whole meeting, which is also on the YouthPower website. We'll post it afterwards. So if you missed anyone on the call, any part of it, and want to go back and listen to the whole thing, please do that. And thank you for joining. And then Sam, you had your hand raised. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and talk?
Yes, hello. My name is Sam Shekamwe from Sierra Leone. I want to say something on this gender-based violence. One of the challenges that have been one of the major aspects here in my community. And the aspect of ending gender-based violence, especially in my communities, in the rural areas, I've seen that local leaders, community leaders, are one of the major problems in ending gender-based violence, like in the area of sexual harassment, sexual penetration. These are matters that they are still settling locally without reporting them in a police station, without taking some of these cases in court. Although Sierra Leone has instituted the gender-based violence court, but yet still, when you go to the rural areas, we see these local chiefs still trying to settle sexual harassment, sexual penetration, physical and psychological effects. So when they are doing these things, and then perpetrators, the victims are seeing perpetrators are passing within their communities, especially women, they feel burdened. These are some of the challenges which we are facing also. In as much, we are raising the awareness and ending gender-based violence. If these local heads or local chiefs are not stopping to settle sexual harassment, especially sexual harassment in their local communities, this is a challenge for advocates, for any advocates to end gender-based violence. So I thank you.
Thank you. Yes, gender-based violence certainly is an issue, I think, that touches everybody around the globe, and I think is really important, could be a very important topic and theme that we can discuss as part of our community practice and addressing some of the issues that you raised, Sam. Thank you. We still have a few more minutes. If we have four more minutes, if anyone else would like to say anything or comment or has any ideas before we wrap up, please feel free to just unmute yourself and talk or raise your hand. Great, then if not, remember, so please, if you have more ideas to add to the Padlet, and then we will share those ideas back out to the group as we start to move forward with formulating our agenda. Please register on youthpower.org so that you can create a profile and connect with everybody. And we will follow up in early January with more of the results from this meeting to share with everyone, as well as our next date for our meeting and the agenda for that based on some of your feedback, choosing one of the topics of interest or areas of interest to kick us off. And then also further developing the next 6 months of the gender community of practice. So thanks so much for taking the time in your busy schedules. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and we'll connect again. And in the meantime, stay connected with us on youthpower.org.
So thank you everyone also from me. So happy holidays, happy Christmas, have a lovely, hoping to have a brilliant new year. We had a rough year this year. So hopefully the next one will be a great one, and it's good to see you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next engagement. So thank you once again.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.